Come back. This is a special here on eNCA. Our reporters are opening up their notebooks and basically reflecting on their coverage of the flooding that has happened in KwaZulu-Natal. As you see them on screen there, we've got Lethiwe Mdluli and Tathia out in KwaZulu-Natal, as well as Heidi Giokos in studio, all of them reflecting. So let's start with you, Heidi, in studio. Let's talk about your coverage around, Claremont, the area of Claremont. I imagine, as I was saying to Sipha Mandla a short while ago, you have many, episodes that you relive and you reflect upon. Just tell me about how the flooding, the devastation manifested in that one area as perhaps a snapshot of a bigger picture of devastation across KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, so I had been deployed to KwaZulu-Natal this past week, and, watching our colleagues be in the province and covering this, you don't actually realize the extent, the damage and the devastation until you are actually there, until you see that half of the road is completely gone, that houses have been washed away, that families are still mourning because they've lost their loved ones. There's a particular family, the Sithole family. Mother and father were at work. Their house is in Claremont. The house was completely washed away. All four of their children were inside the house. The oldest being 27, the youngest being about 11, 12 years old. All four of them were swept away. They were in the house. Of course, the flooding, with all that pressure, that house and other houses were also impacted. But this particular story really broke my heart, because you have the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini, Philani Mavundla, who's come out not to take money from governments, but to call on private companies, businesses, NGOs to assist these families that have been affected by the flooding, to say, if we wait too long until government's processes are finalized, it's going to be very complicated and it's going to take too long. This family in particular, the Sithole family, they have nothing. They are currently staying with the neighbors in Claremont. So the Deputy Mayor has allocated land, and this land is in Wyebank, and this is where the house is going to be built. But we got a chance to actually speak to Masithole, who was completely devastated, and she said, as much as I'm really grateful for the house that's going to be built for me, I'm going to have an empty house because all four of my children are gone. Wow. So that was really heartbreaking and devastating. But of course, she's very grateful because at the moment she's lost everything. Yeah. So let's listen to what she had to say.
Yeah. So ngibhlungu kakhulu ngento eyenzeka, ngoba sengineminyaka ngihlala lapha. Kodwa ke inkinga ngengikwazi ukukhuluma kakhulu kwamanje, ngisebhlungu kakhulu. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ngongwenzeliwe ukuthi ngakhelwe indlu. Ngiyabonga, ngiyajabula kona ubhlungu waphela, ngabe ngiyajabula kakhulu kube kuthiwa ngina nezingane zami. So ngiyabonga kakhulu, angazi ngathini, swela imlomo yokubonga.
Sure, and part of what I'm picking up from some of these conversations, Heidi, is the unassailable dignity with which these people continue to carry themselves, despite the devastation, despite their pain and grief, which is etched on their faces, and you as reporters are confronted with it each time you interview them, but their humanity shines through in it all. Tell me about the role of government in trying to restore what has happened. I saw a poster recently from the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department that basically reflects on some of the progress that has been made in restoring particularly bridges, for example, because at some point, there were bridges that had been devastated such that even school children couldn't get across to get to school, etc. You've been speaking to the Deputy Mayor of eThekwini.
Yes, so the infrastructure is completely broken. There's massive devastation there. You have electricity lines, you have water pipes, you have sewage pipes. That's a massive problem. And having asked the Deputy Mayor about this, what is his biggest headache and what's keeping him up at night, he said, a lot is, but the biggest thing that's concerning me is the sewage pipes. Sewage pipes were broken and affected during the floods, and this has caused a massive problem because that's running into the ocean at the moment. It's running into schools, it's running into rivers in eThekwini, and this is a huge problem for them because they cannot control it until they fix the sewage pipes and any other pipe that has been affected by this. However, one of the biggest water plants were completely destroyed during the floods. That's the Tongaat water plant. So if I tell you how I could not believe my eyes, I could not believe what I was seeing. A water pipe, it was an external water pipe, so it wasn't underground. It was at a water plant, was completely to the left. From the floods, it had completely been pushed to the right, almost broken in half. It was shocking to see what had actually happened. That is going to cost government over 60 million rand just to fix that. That means people within Tongaat are not going to have running water out of their taps for the next 5 to 8 months. The Deputy Mayor is at pains to try and sort this out. He's bringing in private business as well as Hewlett's, that's right there at Tongaat, to pump in as much money as possible, to bring in mobile purification plants to try and see if they can assist. But now with these recent floods, the Deputy Mayor did indicate that he's very worried this is going to hamper their plans and cause even more delays and more problems for them, because what we are seeing from the floodings from yesterday, it seems as though it was quite severe and quite serious. And I do believe that about 40 elderly people from an old age home were evacuated in Tongaat. So the situation remains very volatile and it's very dire. But I think the water plant is a massive issue that the Deputy Mayor is at pains to try and sort out. We were at the water plant. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Considering the amount of engineering work that need to be done here, and also ensuring that whatever we're doing here, we're ensuring that it complies with the standards of engineering, it's short. Normally this will take very long. We have given the people the 5 months. You can see already Tongaat Hewlett, they are almost crossing the river now. They are almost finished on the other side. So basically very soon we'll have access to get to the plant. As you've noticed, the way we're coming in, you can't bring any material, you can't bring equipment, you can't bring anything. So basically we need this road completed. However, we are very sure that we are not going to go over that 5 months, not even by a day. If I do, I'll give you my pay. We're trying to connect to the reservoirs so that the people can have at least the 4 hours of the water coming out of their tap. We're not going to remove the water tankers. We're still going to have the water tankers, but we just want them to have that comfortness of at least having 4 hours of the water flow coming out of their tap. But we also very close to finalize our deal. We've got one supplier that has donated a water treatment plant that will purify about 1.4 mega that we're going to connect here. That will reduce the load.
All right, Heidi, thank you for coming through, opening up your reporter's notebook and reflecting on what is a truly important story that we've been covering over the past month and a half here on eNCA. In fact, let me now take you to Lethiwe Mdluli out in KwaZulu-Natal, and she will do exactly the same. And Lethiwe, you've also been reflecting and talking to some residents who've been affected and devastated by this flooding. What came out of some of those conversations?
Well, Tulas, I think for the past 3 weeks, what I've been doing is visiting community halls. As you'd know, that over 40,000 people here in the province were affected by the floods, but currently we have over 6,800 people that are homeless, and those people are currently being sheltered at various community halls across Durban especially. Now, I've been visiting these community halls, just checking up on those people that lost their homes, that lost their belongings, and even though those people have shelter, it's kind of difficult for them to remain in those shelters because they are overcrowded, first of all, and they are saying that unfortunately for them, there's been no word from government over the last month as to when they will be moved to better housing, because one of their concerns is that since they are crowded in those shelters, there are concerns about their health, and also they are concerned about donations running out. Now, most people that are in those shelters rely on Good Samaritans who donate clothes and also food on a daily basis. So a lot of people that I've been speaking to of the past 3 weeks, they are saying that they need government to make a plan about them. They do not want to remain in these shelters for over 5 months without a plan. And I had a chance to speak to one elderly lady. She's 65 years old. And she shared how she has 10 children, all those 10 children, they had to find them alternative shelters. So most of them are finding shelter with neighbors. And her husband are currently living in a shelter, and she's afraid that her children are not receiving the best care from those neighbors. And she's also worried about her health as well, because she is saying that every day they are exposed to people who are coughing within the community hall, and she's worried about COVID-19. Of course, they are elderly, so if they do get COVID-19, it will affect them badly. She did share that she's very grateful that she currently has shelter, but unfortunately she cannot remain in that shelter for much long. We spoke to her about her concerns, and this is what she had to say about it.
Okungiphethe kabuhlungu ukuhlala kwami lana kungiphethe kahle ngoba sihleli sibaningi njengoba sibaningi njena nokugula kukhona okusokufikile iCovid ebusuku asilali siyakhohlela sonke nginaleyo nkinga enkulu ukuthi ungabe ngizophuma la noma ngeke ngiphume yini futhi okunye ayikho into abasibikelayo ukuthi izindlu zoyithola noma ngesiyitholile thulekile nje thethu nokunye nokuthi futhi noma ngathiwa ke ngiyaphuma ke ngithola leyo ndlu ngizothathana ngihlanganise nani ngoba konke akukho lutho lwami olwaphuma njoba ngihleli la nje nginenkinga enkulu ngithe ngiyahamba ngiyoyisheka kwafika kwasho wathana iBP yami ayikho right kanti ngihlala right ngaso sonke isikhathi nokuthi futhi uma benginika umuzi bonginika omngana ngoba ingane zami zo10 ubaba nami sesu12 akekho futhi umuntu osebenzayo kulela khaya.
So Lethiwe, the idea is that these people are in these shelters temporarily while government and other agencies try to help them rebuild and re-establish their homes, and it may take a bit of time, of course. Along that vein, you've been talking to the Human Settlements MEC, Joe Mosbia. What has he been telling you about availability of funding to drive that particular project?
Well, the MEC actually had a lot of problems that he shared with us first. The first one being funding, but he did say that over 500 million has been approved by the department, which means that 500 million will go into building those temporary housing units. But there are other issues that they're facing as a government and as a department, meaning that they have to identify land, safe land to build these housing units. And they did share that finding land, suitable land to build, has been kind of a problem because you understand over the past month we've seen a lot of areas being flooded. So finding space to build these units is proving to be hard. But they did say that they have identified a few areas where these units can be built. But another problem is with ratepayer associations across the city of Durban who are refusing for departments to build these units. They are saying that a lot of people are saying not in my backyard. They do not want these temporary housing units to be built near their homes. And they are questioning whether government will have those people living there for a really long time. So the MEC did say that they've had numerous meetings with ratepayer associations who are refusing for them to build these units, and also having conversations with other government departments in identifying suitable land for these people, because one thing they're trying to avoid is getting these people back to where they actually came from. Those areas are near riverbanks, which means that they're not safe. Other areas are near low-lying areas, so they are saying that they cannot take them back there, even though a lot of people that are being housed at shelters and community halls do prefer to go back to their areas. Government is warning against this. And the MEC said within a range of 10 days, which he gave us this time frame last week, he did say that they're going to start moving them. The process of moving people will start because currently there are about 77 housing units that have been built. They are looking at building over 1,800. Now, the MEC did say that those meetings that they're having with ratepayer associations are continuing because they do need to build those units. While speaking to him about funding and finding the suitable land for these shelters, this is what the MEC for Human Settlements here in the province had to say.
We have reprioritized about R1 billion, but so far it's 500 million that we have literally reprioritized for building of TRUs, which are temporary residential units, but also making sure that we give our people vouchers so they can be able to buy material, because there are those people who still have their houses intact, only the roof has been blown away or has been removed. So we'll give them vouchers to replace their roofs. But also those who are in informal settlements, we must make sure that they go back to their lives and they start to rebuild their lives. We'll be providing them with material, we'll be supplying them with materials.
KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements MEC Jomosbia there. Lethiwe, thank you for that reporting. That's eNCA's Lethiwe Mdluli out in Durban.